even know why I'm here with Awesome
another
Truth, but it
video,
is great, and it's
Truth
been
and the
wonderful to
Miz,
see
doing
you guys reunited
like a
and taking this
interview
run, and now going for what you're going for here at WrestleMania, the six-pack ladder match. What are we in store for with this? I mean, this thing could get crazy.
Mayhem.
Yeah.
Tell them.
These type of matches are always very. We always tell kids not to try what we do at home. Is because of these type of matches. These are very dangerous.
Yeah, they are very dangerous.
Honestly, I was at my house. I bought ladders.
You bought ladders,
Just to start practicing. Just to start practicing. Like, you know, I started like getting all the leaves out of my gutter just to see how tall it is and being like, oh, I gotta fall from here,
Yeah,
maybe.
changing light bulbs.
Yeah, they're very risky, but we have a game plan. We've been thinking a lot about it. We've been talking a lot about it. We have ideas that we want to do. Can we conduct them? You never know what's going to happen in a match. You don't know where the ladders are going to be. You don't know what else is going to come into play.
You got to adapt.
Right.
At all times, you got to adapt.
And there's no one better at adapting than R-Truth.
Yeah, well, you mentioned strategy, you mentioned things you got to deal with, and then I'm looking at your partner here, who at times in your career, when it comes to ladders and trying to grasp things that may or may not be there, has been a unique challenge. What's the setup here tonight? Are we dealing with two different hanging belts, or
Yes.
two areas where ladders? Go through it with me. Tell me what we're in store for here.
Well, you got the SmackDown titles on one side, you got the Raw titles
Okay.
on the other. We're trying to get both, right?
Yeah, you want both.
And how?
The idea is
How far
you want-
apart are the two sets of belts?
So if this is the ring, they're like this, I would say. So
Okay.
You're not going to
it's-
reach. and
You
grab-
can't reach from
it's-
one to the
it's a
other.
unique
Although you
match.
may try, but you may.
No, we've been practicing.
You've been okay.
The setup is something I don't think we've ever seen before in WWE.
Really?
This is the first time ever at WrestleMania 40. It's something new, and it's exciting for us because, you know, we feel that the first time that we started tagging, which was, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
We never got the titles. We never won the titles. And now you come back 10 years later, still here, the best we've ever been. I've never seen a hotter R-Truth.
Oh,
the
it's-
audience reaction
it's been
towards him
unbelievable.
has been absolutely unbelievable.
It has been.
And I love just watching it and feeling the energy from it. And it kind of goes towards me. I mean, the only person that can really make me a baby face, a good guy, people cheer me, is R-Truth.
And now it's time.
And now it's time. Now we feel it is time to get the tag title.
Listen, you guys are beloved. It's everything comes full circle. You go back to what you first were with Awesome Truth, and now we get it again. But also your story personally. You've been through a lot of adversity physically in recent years.
Right.
With the knee and the comeback, and even some doubts as to if you could even come back. What does it mean to you personally?
It means the world to me. Especially being the biggest WrestleMania of all time. It's the biggest one. Like, it's a big deal for me. It's a big deal
Yeah, this is
for
the
us.
biggest WrestleMania.
Us cashing in tonight and getting those tag titles will make all the suffering, the adversities, the pain, the surgeries, it will make everything worth its while.
Judgment Day,
Yeah.
everything that Judgment Day put you through, I would say
Yeah.
getting those titles and taking the titles, their most prized possession from them.
Yeah, we ain't even talked about that.
Oh man, that is
I
what
bought
I'm
them on
looking forward
TV,
to.
dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
TV.
I got a good deal on TV for
Yeah.
them. They didn't even hook the cable up. I hooked the cable up. I took care of the plumbing work, all that stuff. I sold the T-shirt, the merch, top selling merchandise.
That's insane.
Huge cash.
And they beat us up week after week after week.
Didn't even put them in the group.
I can't believe
I
that.
was in the group.
Okay.
JD never was in the group.
Oh, that's what
Yeah,
it was.
I was
okay.
in the group.
Got it.
Yeah, I
Got
was
it.
in.
The build to this WrestleMania, and the two of you have seen it all through the years, and obviously you had your massive WrestleMania moment. But the build to this Mania feels very different than other WrestleManias, and a lot of it has to do with the unexpected. I mean, nobody saw that you guys would be paired again. But even what we're dealing with what we get in the main event here on night one. If I told you 5-6 months ago, hey, by the way, The Rock is back. And by the way, here's what the main event's going to be. You guys would be
How about this? The Rock is back, and the audience is chanting, "We want Cody."
exactly
The biggest star
in the world. Right.
has said, "Hey, I haven't been here in like 12 years. I'm gonna have a match." Oh, great! But we want you maybe next year or the year after that. But we want Cody right now. We want to finish the story. Like that's the best part about I think WrestleMania 40 is the fans decided.
Yes.
The
That's
fans
right.
said,
That's what I'm saying.
"Hey, Rock, we love you. We think you're great, but we want Cody." We want Cody to finish the story, and Cody's going to have an opportunity to finish the story. And let me tell you something. If he doesn't finish the story at WrestleMania 40,
I swear.
I believe the fans will turn on him.
Turn
Yeah,
on
okay.
who?
Cody.
Oh.
You don't think so? It's last year he said I'm gonna finish the story. He did not. He had a whole year. And by the way, this year Cody has worked, has dedicated himself, has been the hardest working superstar in all of WWE. And this is coming from me. And he literally is in a point right now where I think he's at his pinnacle. He's at his top. If he doesn't win that title, I don't know where else he can go.
I know, right?
Put the weight on him.
I'm telling you, Cody has more pressure than he's ever had before. I don't think any superstar in the history of WWE has ever had this much pressure put on him. And by the way, it's self-induced. He did this to himself because he said, I need to finish the story.
Right.
Now we all are invested in the story. You have to finish the story. If you don't finish the story,
When you pull more than a move, get same-day orthopedic care for the sport of life with WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics.
where do you go?
I get that, but you're talking about the tribal chief and the final.
I
boss.
know, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
And Rock was cool when he came back until all that
and
happened.
by the way, he's going
And
up
then he
against
just-
an unbeatable Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns hasn't been beaten in like 1,000
Sure,
days.
over 1,300 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been champion. No one's been able to take it off of him. And the best part is, I saw an interview with Roman, and Roman's like, hey, that's not my story. I'm doing my own story here. And I really don't care. Everyone's been trying to finish their story with me. I'm just trying to finish my own story. So it's like he does not care about some story that Cody has. Just because you want it, you got to beat him.
You mentioned that the fans spoke up, right? And you had the "We Want Cody" movement, and then you get a pivot. The pivot was critical. In the locker room and among the superstars, what was the reaction to this final boss version of The Rock? What was your reaction when you started seeing the final boss?
My reaction was, I mean, I've known Rock for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he just resorted back to, you know what I'm saying? He just turned it back around to who he originally was. I think they did it. Cody added to it,
Yep.
but I think they made him turn.
I'm like,
I
I'm
think
gonna lie to WrestleMania.
This is the best Rock we've ever had. And by the way, this is a guy coming from a guy who, the reason I'm a WWE superstar is because of The Rock. I wanted to be a WWE superstar because of The Rock. The electricity that he brought back in the Attitude Era. I remember in high school watching in my living room going, oh my God, I love The Rock. You know, and all my buddies loved Stone Cold Steve Austin. And every Mania, we would literally be fighting back and forth on who would win. And so now we see this Rock, and this is a new breed of Rock, a new confident Rock, a Rock that literally says, I'm the boss. I'm the final boss.
You know what he said to
I
us
make
yesterday?
up the rules.
Miz, we were sitting with him here on SportsCenter last night, and it's aired overnight on SportsCenter, and we started talking about what you're describing of getting back to that Attitude Era I was
That's
talking
who he
about.
was, I'm telling you.
Wait, he took it to a different level, R-Truth. I said, you know, everybody's saying, oh, it's the Attitude Era again, but there's an amped up level of violence and intensity. He goes, it's not the Attitude Era. I'm going to say it right now what it is. And I won't swear, but he did. And he said, it's the F that era. That's his overall attitude to anything that's brought to him right now as the final boss is F that. F that. I'm doing it my way. F that. This is how it's going to be. So he feels like it's not a 2.0 version. It's like a 10.0 version, right?
It's a different version. I mean,
Yeah.
you had the Attitude Era, you had the PG era, you
Yeah.
had the Ruthless Aggression era. This is a whole new era, and I think if he wants to name it that, I think that
F
can be
that
it.
era.
But honestly, I don't think professional wrestling in WWE has been hotter ever.
I agree.
In my entire career.
Yeah.
What about you? You've been here longer than I have.
It haven't been as hot.
No, I mean, I remember, you know, the Attitude Era where literally they always talk about, I wasn't there, but they always talk about how every arena was sold out. Every live event was sold out.
Totally.
Every pay-per-view was sold out.
Yes, sir.
We're back to those days.
No doubt.
We go to live events.
Yeah.
They're sold out no matter what city we're in. And people are talking about it more and more and more. It's pop culture.
Yes.
Again, everyone is excited about it again. And so it's cool to see. It's fun to see. I love seeing, you know, kids, teenagers, parents, all walks of life, every single age that you
Yep.
could possibly imagine in our attendance tonight.
And with what you guys are doing, and who you are, obviously,
Right.
I mean, being who you, and you're so beloved now with being reunited. But in a six-pack ladder match, you guys have an opportunity to be one of those jaw-dropping moments of the weekend. You really do.
That's the
You
goal.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
you sense that
Yes.
where your match, and specifically what you guys are capable of doing, and the reaction you'll get from the fans when people walk away from the weekend, outside of the headliners of what's happening Saturday main event Sunday, the moment people may talk about is because of how extreme this thing could be.
And that's what moments are made of.
Yeah.
And we have to deliver. And that's what we've been talking about doing.
Mm-hmm.
First time ever on the biggest, the grandest stage of all time.
I mean, honestly, we look at it like this. This is WrestleMania. This is what we strive for. This is our Super Bowl. This is our World Series. This is our NBA Final. This is our Final Four.
Yes.
Right.
This is it. This is what we set out to do all year long. This is what we prepared for. And I feel like all the talent is ready, is abled, and we are going to create moments that will last a lifetime. And obviously, we are going to strive to make sure our match, as we always like to say, steals the show.
R-Truth,
Oomph on it.
The Miz, could have some nice hardware by the end of the night. Great luck tonight.
Ah,
We'll
thank
see
you very much.
All
Aim
right.
for luck when
Yeah.
you're the awesome truth.
Yes.
There's growing excitement around the Powerball jackpot. Get yours today at your favorite retailer or online at PALottery.com. So come on, just remember to please play responsibly. The jackpot's over $1 billion. Powerball.
Roman, I am curious as to how you see yourself right now, because I've sat with you before other WrestleManias and other big events, and it's hard to believe that your profile and your status could have grown bigger. But in the past 3 months, and then in just the past couple weeks, it seems the build-up to this WrestleMania and to what your brand is has grown beyond anything we could have ever expected. Do you feel that too? Do you sense that?
Well, I try to be aware of all this stuff so you can take in this information, you can take in this data and know where to go from it, know how to adjust, how to evolve. When you're involved in an annual product, this is episodic, this is every single week, 52 weeks a year, you have to constantly think about the new layers and what are these new things that we can do, or do we find a nice, not a pattern, but a nice sweet spot and condition them for a little while and then set them up for that big, that big reveal,
That was
whatever
so
that
bad.
layer
Oh
is,
my
whatever that new
gosh.
piece of information is. So
That was my first
I'm not
airball
surprised
ever.
because we take a lot of pride
I
in,
never
in
airballed.
having that knowledge, following the information, and then how our
never
fan
airballed
base is
like that,
reacting
I
to
swear,
us,
I never.
and then go from there.
You were thinking that way, though, at a time where others were just trying to survive in the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
When sport, like you, in 2020, you're sitting back and you're saying, we can change this. Here's where this can go. How much pride do you take now when you reflect on the last 4 years when you get to a week like this and you see what it became?
It's everything. I was asked a question yesterday about, coming up and wrestling in front of essentially no one, a small crowd. And I told Jimmy on the Tonight Show that I've wrestled in front of 2 people before, literally taking requests. What do you want to see? You're the only guy here, so you want a body slam or what? To take on the challenge of the Thunderdome, video screens very similar to this, a very Black Mirror feeling. You have to be different. You have to think outside the box. And one of the advantages I had was I was able to sit back and study the process.
So
I wasn't working at that time at the beginning of COVID. I was at home just due to the process and trying to figure out what was going on. And I was able to, like a football player, study film. And I'm watching my colleagues not take advantage of the silence. They're still wrestling as if we're in front of thousands of people. And the art form is clearly, it's
I'm not
built
trying to
for a
find.
simultaneous response. But when you don't have that, you have to change it up. You have to throw a curveball. You have to figure out what other pitches you can throw. So I figured, why not bring the big screen? When it's my time to get, back in there, let's work on the nuances. Let's work on the tiny little details, because we don't have to cater to the ecosystem, the atmosphere that we create, because we never want to not showcase that. We always want to show the craziness that is the WWE universe. But if we don't have them, how do you stand out? And that's how I attacked it.
And then it still lasts when you do have them. It's still, the tool still works. Paul Heyman was sitting in that seat earlier today, and he talked about this as well. And the subject turned to discussing this level of refinement that almost creates an intimacy, right?
Sure.
That the space in between is where you mine the gold a little bit. You've mastered that. You really have in recent years.
Well, thank you. I don't want to say mastered because then that means I probably have nothing to do next year.
Well,
So I want to keep working on it. I
yeah,
want to keep
you always
evolving
wanna get
it.
better,
but yeah, I mean, this is something that has benefited us. And then also trust in your team. I have the advantage of growing up with the Usos. Paul's known me longer than I'd known myself. He's been with my family longer than I have. When you have great trust in the people you work with, it just makes everything so much easier. And that's something I'm a team guy. I've constantly, looked at that dynamic and how can we make it better, and together is how we did it.
It's interesting you bring that up in discussing teamwork, because this week was obvious. I mean, listen, you're getting a ton of shine this week, the spotlight with what you're doing here in Philly, but you've been doing a lot of mainstream interviews this week. And then you start the week with the beautiful documentary that aired, and a great reception to that of your origin story. And in that doc, you discuss the pride you take in lifting those around you, of creating opportunity.
Absolutely.
That's happened a lot.
Well, it wasn't by mistake. It wasn't by accident. That was, that was something that Paul and I discussed. How do we make history? And every top guy and every, tandem management and talent, it kind of stays within that, that nucleus. But how do I get people orbiting me? How do I become the sun, is the way we looked at it. How do we make people better? How do we put a spotlight on people who just haven't had it and we know they can take it? I knew Jay could step up. I knew Jimmy could step up. Solo's much younger, but we know exactly what kind of cloth he's cut from. We know the fabric he's made of. We knew he could handle everything.
You have to be very secure to be that kind of guy.
100%.
So you have to be very confident and secure. There was a quote you gave in the doc, and I wrote it down. You said, I wish this got me butterflies, but no, I earned this. I expected this. I've always expected this. How much does that level of confidence define you in your
My
success
bad, guys.
right
I'm just
now?
playing my game, and you guys could watch this. Yeah.
I'm just not going to accept anything less. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it at the very top level. I want to do it better than everybody else. I'm from that Michael Jordan generation where there's just this sweet, lust for success and being the very best. And that's what I've always wanted as a kid. And, we always thought it could have been football. If it wasn't that, we knew it was wrestling. If it wasn't that, then we knew it was football. And it ended up being wrestling. But I had one thing on my mind: to be a man of impact and a man of influence. And that's what we're just constantly working at.
Well, you have done that for over 1,300 days, and it's the next 2 days that'll be the biggest of all. Congratulations on arriving here. Look forward to seeing you Saturday and Sunday. A lot of work ahead.
It is. It's not done yet. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, would you mind taking a picture of us?
Oh, no problem.
Thanks.
Ooh, yes, problem.
You need Verizon. Get the new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of storage, so you can take all the pics.
Trade in any iPhone in any condition and get iPhone 15 Pro on us. Only on Verizon.
WWE is red hot right now. As somebody that's been around it and been at WrestleManias recently, this feels very different. It feels beyond anything we've seen in recent years. And there's nobody obviously more equipped to give us the historical perspective and make that kind of assessment. You, a couple weeks ago, you declare wrestling is cool again. You put that out there.
Yeah.
You put that out there, it matters. What are you sensing with the fan reaction to that, to this level of fire associated now with this brand?
What I'm feeling with the fans, and I think that's one of the great benefits of this business of professional wrestling. I was very lucky and fortunate that I grew up in it. I was born into it. For those who may not know, my grandfather was a professional wrestler. My dad was a professional wrestler. My grandfather wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr. in the 70s. My dad came along in the 80s. He was a trailblazer as well. I came along in the 90s, ruined everything with my bad haircut and a fanny pack, as I like to say. But what I'm sensing now, Joe, is that fans are excited at this idea that professional wrestling yes, is cool again. It's exciting again. It's unpredictable. And it kind of harkens back to, in my opinion, which was my personal goal. You have a sense in the spirit of professional wrestling in the early 80s, where that was a really unique time in this world of professional wrestling where a shift started to happen in the culture, in the zeitgeist, where Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulk Hogan, became what he became, and professional wrestling became national. Then it became global, but the cornerstone and the underpinning happened in the early 80s. So you had, and again, growing up just as a fan of a man and a kid who just loved professional wrestling, loved the bad guys. At that time in the early 80s, you had Hulk Hogan, you also had Ric Flair, and you had Dusty Rhodes. And you had guys like that who were ushering in this really unique style of professional wrestling where there was a blurring of the lines, so to speak, between reality and fiction, and how they merged and converged together at times in the early 80s created this really cool, unique, as we call it in wrestling parlance, as you would shoot wrestling angles. People would watch and go, that was really cool. That shit looks real. Like, what is that? What's unique about it? So I feel like in this world of pro wrestling, things can come full circle. And I think it's coming back around full circle, but also in this unique way where I would say teamwork makes the dream work. So I am luckily one of many individuals who are ushering in this new era, if you will.
I think you sum it up perfectly with your analysis of going back to 1984, right?
Yes.
And really looking at what the product was in the 70s, where it was wrestling.
Yes.
It was arenas, and it was superstar Billy Graham and Bob Backlund and
that's right.
the strong, Chief Jay.
Yes.
It became, and what you just described there was the merging onto the superhighway of entertainment and drama and cinema with wrestling when Mr. T gets involved. First WrestleMania.
That's right.
Right? When Muhammad Ali's the guest referee, when Liberace is now.
Billy Martin.
All of that, though, you feel that pull back to that right now. The past 3 months, from your initial pop on day one to right now, feels like this is the modern day example of the merging with mega entertainment with the sport as we know it. I think you sum it up perfectly.
Thank you for saying that, and I would agree with you now. And this is the fun part, man, that we are in right now.
The build's been unbelievable.
It has been a pretty good build, yes, but it's also required, I think, the ability to pivot, and I think perhaps more importantly than the ability to pivot is the capacity to listen.
I want to talk about that pivot because that's what I think has put the hook in the mouth for so many that have been reeled in to what's going to happen this weekend, because we've seen your evolution through the years in all different forms of you. But the final boss is so different, and it's so beyond what we've known, Hollywood Rock and other versions of where you've gone. How would you characterize that evolution and your ability to listen and to deliver with that?
Sure. I would categorize the evolution into Final Boss as when opportunity meets the willingness to listen, truly listen. You could hear fans, but there's also a difference between hearing and then listening. And then there's also a difference between, I think, hearing, listening, and then action. And in this case, when the idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns was the main event idea that was going to happen last year, at last year's WrestleMania. It was converging nicely. We were having discussions, myself, Nick Khan, who you know very well, both of us know him very well, and that was coming together, and that wasn't meant to be. I'll just say it like that. So we decided to put the pencils down. Not with Nick Khan, but with Vince McMahon.
Yes, sir.
And I had suggested to Vince, let's put the pencils down for now, and maybe we could move off, maybe we could return to this at another time. So as I started to come back and structured a new deal and agreement with Ari, who I've known for over 20 years, my close business partner and my agent. I always like to joke that I look at him as my big brother, even though there's a nice size difference between us. The goal was then, well, let's put on the biggest WrestleMania of all time between The Rock and Roman Reigns. Let's do that. So now, as we started to put that on its feet, the fans started to voice their concern, which is the best part, one of the best parts about our business. Again, when the fans voice their concerns, whether it's 5 or 5,000 or 5 million, you can hear them, you can listen, you can choose to truck through it, or you can choose to take action and serve them properly. So as we started to put this whole thing on its feet,
When you pull more than a move, get same-day orthopedic care for the sport of life with WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics.
a moment came. I felt like it was a critical moment, and I was in Hawaii with the family. And luckily in Hawaii is where I get a lot of my pretty good ideas. Some not so good, but a lot of them are good. And I remember calling Nick and Ari, and I said, I have this idea. I don't think we should truck through this, because the thing that bothers me most is that there is a group of fans, a segment of fans who are upset. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the North Star is, but how about this as an idea? Why don't we go with this incredible storyline, continue to go with it between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns? The idea of finishing his story is one that fans have invested in. We as a company have invested in that too. Rock and Roman can wait. However, what if The Rock turned heel? And what if The Rock not only turned heel, but I was able to present a version of The Rock that was 10.0?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been a level of violence and intensity
Sure.
that if you told me 6 months ago, DJ's going to be doing this, everybody would shaking heads.
Sure.
There's no way he's not. I mean, you've taken this thing to a far different level.
Well, I think you have to with something like this. If we're going to go and we're going to commit to Rock 10.0, we're going to commit to Final Boss, and if that's going to be the declaration, well, what does that mean? That means you go for it, you swing for the fences, and you don't look back. We're not going to just halfway get involved into this. We're not going to halfway commit to a Rock 5.0. Let's go Rock 10.0. And also, selfishly for me, I mean, for many years, I've been very lucky and appreciative of this situation that I'm in, where I've been able to achieve a few things, gotten a little bit of influence underneath my belt, but also at the same time, what you realize is people expect you to be a certain way, and they expect you to talk a certain way, and they expect you to do things in a certain way. And at times I could feel a little pretzeling. At times it could feel like you're a little handcuffed. And so the Final Boss represents a lot of things to a lot of people, but certainly to me represents, I'll tell you this, a lot of people have called this, oh, the Attitude Era is back. What I have called this era is the, excuse my language, because it's coming, the that era.
Yeah.
And that's what this means, and that's what the Final Boss means. It's, you expect me to do one thing, you think it's got to be like this, well, that, I'm not doing it like that. Final Boss isn't doing it like that. So, but what's also interesting is, what we have found is, the reason why people have gravitated towards this Rock 10.0 Final Boss is, I'm able to say things that people want to say, that they can't say. So let the Final Boss say it.
Your level of investment to make this decision, it's not just putting your face and name to something. There has to be a physical commitment as
Yes.
well. I thought it was an amazing article with ESPN.com this week detailing your training camp.
Thank you. Yes.
Sending the rings to LA, sending a ring to Hawaii.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Physically, I feel
Yeah.
great. Yes. Knock on wood. Physically, I feel great.
It's been 11 years since a scheduled match.
Of course.
11
yeah.
years.
And there is no there's nothing that you could do. There's nothing that we could do in life that could equal being in the ring, being suplexed, being thrown around. You just have to do it.
Right.
It is like riding a bike. It does come back, but it's a rude awakening when you first start hitting that mat because it's very unforgiving. But physically, I wanted to make sure that I was prepared. And as you know, and as everybody watching who follows WWE and pro wrestling, these guys who I'm in the ring with, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, these guys are the best in the world. And they are top-notch athletes. I want to make sure that I'm holding my own. So I committed to a 8 to 10 week training camp. I did have rings flown to Los Angeles, ring flown to Hawaii when I was there. We brought in guys, we had training camp, and the training camp has been great, but it's also been very intense. So it's a unique training camp in that you apply the practice of your weight work, your recovery modalities, everything that I have typically been doing for years. But when it comes to the ring work, that's where it gets really unique and it gets specific. And you also have to be careful about how much you do, because you don't want to get hurt, but you also know that there's nothing in the gym that could ever equate to just being suplexed or slammed. So the training camp has been great. The body feels good.
You can see a transformation, especially in recent weeks, and
Appreciate it.
And you've earned that. And you go out and perform at a high level tomorrow, and then maybe the final boss can enjoy a nice agave-based drink afterwards.
Oh, absolutely.
And celebrate.
Yes, there you go.
Celebrate just a little bit.
It's waiting, yeah.
Hey, what a great visit. Everybody's looking forward to this. Congratulations on arriving just to this point.
Thank you very
The
much.
final boss, The Rock.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
This will be a gold mine of local intel.
Tell us about this corn festival. Oh, you got your corn pudding. So is it safe around here? Sometimes. No eyebrows?
Think of how light it'll feel in the summer. We gotta run. 11,000 more neighborhoods to go.
Ding dong.
Homes.com.
And Clark is your Naismith Player of the Year. That's 2 in a row. After that, in the multiple records she's broken, Monica, what a tough...
Seth, how do you manage back-to-back nights? How do you deal with just the workload of a weekend like this?
I mean, you just got to take it
Bro, I can't
one day at a
listen.
time. And I know that's cliche, but I think the thing is if you look at it and you try to manage your workload, so to speak, you're going to end up minimizing your output on both nights. And I think for me, the way I have always operated, and for better or worse, is I empty the tank. And I'm just going to leave it all out there. So night one, we got this tag match. I mean, it's the biggest tag match in the history of WrestleMania. And I got to leave it all out there, man, because I don't know any other way to do it. And then carry over to Sunday, and look, you're going to have 70,000 people.
Right.
I mean, the adrenaline's going to push you through. You'll deal with it on the other side, you know?
Obviously, you've been to the highest heights. I mean, you cashed in on WrestleMania and been to the top of a mountain. However, this is the first time where it's your first scheduled WrestleMania main event. So that means there's your face on every poster board, every media tour. There you are front and center for every single part of the bill to get today. How different does that feel? You got the moment, but this is now the lead up with the moment.
Yeah, the lead up's the big part, you know?
Yeah.
The lead up's because you're on the marquee, so you're responsible for the people in the stadium. And so you're responsible for the build to the match. You're responsible for really the biggest night in our industry, the biggest weekend, the biggest week. You know, this sets the table for everything that's to come. Obviously, it's kind of like an epilogue and a final chapter to the year, and then a beginning to the next year. So it's everything all rolled into one. And it's one thing to steal a main event, but it's a totally different animal to be in the mix, especially with these three guys, talking about Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, The Rock, and making this as big as it can possibly be. It's a totally different beast. The pressure is on another level. So it's a really different experience, but man, this is what I've been dreaming of my whole life.